Deafness is characterized by hearing loss, an umbrella term for a range of conditions where an individual possesses a reduced capacity to hear than what is conventional. This is a medical perspective on deafness, and at times its focus on impairment borders on being offensive. We seek to discuss deafness within a social model of disability. Deaf people may belong to a community complete with its own culture. Within this community, a particular distinction between deaf, with a lowercase d, and deaf with an uppercase d is often made, referencing the larger community and identity when stylized with an uppercase d. They recognise that deafness is characterised by belonging to a unique minority group of society, rather than suffering an impairment, as is implied by the lowercase d. For a distinct population of those with hearing loss, those whose primary language is sign language and are profoundly deaf, the perception of their condition as a disability is challenged, arguing that it is in fact a significant part of their identity. Moreover, the label of disabled is believed to be placed upon the deaf by a hearing society, not by individuals with intimate experience with the community. Correcting this misconception through deaf excellence is at the foundation of the deaf community's ideals. Dirksen et al. Go further to epitomise the ideals of their culture, advocating the term deaf gain, arguing that nothing is lost in being deaf. Instead, it lends to diversity, and through some aspects such as sign languages, unparalleled and emotional and contextual nuances, unique perspectives for creative endeavours, and sensory abilities including sharpened sight and smell receive unique gains unavailable to the hearing community.
The deaf community is made up of those who are deaf and hard of hearing who share common experiences, values, and a common language and way of interacting with each other. Those who usually belong to the community are those who use Auslan, those who are deaf from birth or an early age, children of deaf adults, and those who live and work with people who are deaf. Those who do not usually belong to the community are individuals who lose their hearing in their adult life and those who do not value or respect Auslan. Not everyone who is completely or partially deaf will associate themselves with the deaf community. As it is a cultural and linguistic group, the D in deaf community is capitalised. Therefore, when talking about all deaf people, the D is not capitalised, as not all those who are deaf recognise themselves as belonging to the community.
1 in 6 Australians are affected by hearing loss. According to the Victorian Deaf Society, they submitted that more children are having their hearing impairment diagnosed, but fewer children are being found to have a severe profound hearing loss. The reason for this could be due to the improvements in documenting deafness, management and better treatment of rubella, and modifying the etiology of deafness. As there are no set guidelines as to what is considered being deaf, the identification and association of being part of the deaf community differs with each individual. This results in various reports on the size of the deaf community. In Access Economics, it was stated that there are approximately 30,000 deaf Auslan users with total hearing loss. However, in SignBank, an online dictionary, it was found that there was about 6,500 people. This results in reports of different numbers relating to the size of the deaf community, varying from numbers as low as 6,000 to 30,000 deaf Auslan users.
Communication modalities used by the deaf community continue to develop as technology advances. In Australia, this is funded by the government and further supported by organisations such as Deaf Children Australia and the Deafness Foundation Australia. Sign language, gesturing and writing rely on visual cues for the transfer of information rather than acoustics. However, advancements in audiological practices have been revolutionary to the modalities used for overcoming deafness. Structuring of the inner ear canal can be used in conductive deafness to resolve blockages and restore some level of hearing. Developed over the past decades, the cochlear implant has a mainstream use in overcoming deafness. It relies on the direct electrical stimulation to auditory nerves bypassing damaged proportions of the ear. This is conveyed to the brain to create recognizable sound patterns. Whilst hearing aids have been around since the earliest part of the 20th century, their method of restoring hearing differs to the cochlear implant. Hearing aids receive sound waves that are then converted through an amplifier into electrical signals, allowing for the interpretation of sound.
The lived experiences of people who are deaf are imperative when understanding who belongs to the deaf community and the culture they share. We can examine this through the parallels in two deaf individuals' lives and also the disparities in their observation. Meet Rachel Kolb and Keith Nolan. Rachel Kolb was born to a hearing family. Her parents learned sign language to communicate with her. Through years of extensive voice training via speech pathology, she learned how to speak. Placing her hands on her therapist's throat and feeling the vibrations helped her to recognize sound patterns necessary for her speech. It is through this she is able to achieve her aspiration of public speaking and share her story. She is currently studying a master's in English literature with the intention of becoming a proficient writer and therefore a role model for her community. On the other hand, we have Nolan. From a young age, Nolan had aspirations to be a military officer, however was told that he could not enlist due to being deaf. After mastering in deaf education and teaching both hearing and deaf students, he joined a program called the Army Reserve Officer Training Corps. The program allows students working on their college majors to participate in a military training course. Upon graduation, rough students will be able to join the army and commission as a second lieutenant. Despite being denied in previous years on the basis of his perceived disability, he was accepted into the program and excelled. Nolan, through his studies, is also able to comment on the history of deaf soldiers within the US military and current active members of the Israeli army, not only deaf but also those who experience a myriad of other disabilities. Despite these points, Nolan has reached a blockage in his military career, being unable to excel any further in rank due to impaired-based restrictive policy. With this in mind, he advocates for policy change via social media platforms and an active website, making him a deaf role model in his own right. A main point of difference between Cobb and Nolan was that Cobb is able to communicate verbally, whereas Nolan communicates through sign language. This could be due to their different experiences growing up. Cobb grew in a hearing family where, although her parents had no knowledge on deafness or sign language, they valued communication. Hence, they learned sign language and provided tools for Cobb such as speech therapy in order for her to expand her choices of communication methods. Consequently, Cobb chose to speak instead of signing because she believes she can convey her message better. In contrast, Nolan chose to use sign language in his TED Talks. This could be due to him believing that signing and having an interpreter was effective in delivering his message, especially since he had accomplished till the second level of rock and was top cadet in the class. Whilst Nolan's choice to use sign language may be personal, it could have been the result of poorer access to resources such as speech pathologies or his support networks growing. Further, as Nolan does not view deafness as a disability, it may lead him to the belief that society needs to adapt to his differences rather than him adapting to the norm.
Both Cobb and Nolan have differing perspectives on deafness. Their lived experiences have many common threads. Aside from being deaf, the most apparent is the inherent attitude of society to focus on disability rather than ability. Barriers to their aspirations arise from this. Nolan was refused entry to the military on the basis of his disability, rather than being provided with a choice to participate in non-combat roles. Similarly, Cobb was told that she would never ride a horse independently due to her disability and should refrain from public speaking as her deafness was a burden on the audience listening to her. Despite this, both demonstrated perseverance and challenged this attitude, allowing them to surpass barriers associated with being deaf and achieve their goals. Nolan contested military policy that denied deaf soldiers the right to participate in the army, allowing him to achieve a cadetship. Likewise, Cobb persisted through 18 years of speech pathology, allowing her to raise awareness on deaf culture and share her experiences of discrimination due to her disability.
One last point of comparison between Cobb and Nolan is the social community that surrounds them and its impact on their lives. Both Cobb and Nolan are surrounded by family and friends who support them and do not place any limitations on their abilities. Cobb stated that her family, friends, interpreters and therapists never treated her as though she had a disability, therefore she believed that she did not have one. She viewed her hearing family as being a key influence on her experience as being a person who is deaf, as it became her channel of confidence for continuing speech pathology and learning how to verbally communicate. Nolan was also surrounded by support in the military. He was told by one of the officers that if he wanted to be a soldier, he had to learn the commands just like the others did. This in hand made Nolan feel like he belonged, as he was given dignity to who he was, just like all of the other soldiers were. Nolan also formed camaraderie with his fellow cadets, forming their own family. The support from their social environments allowed both Cobb and Nolan to not view their deafness as a disability, but rather gain the confidence to achieve their goals without feeling as though they are limited.
Both Cobb and Nolan have experienced limitations because of their deafness. However, the ways in which it has impacted their lives and their approaches to it are starkly different. Through discussing both experiences, societal attitudes towards deafness can be gauged.